Hey, it's that Lavallais chick, and I was supposed to upload another short film this week, but I wanted to re-edit it, and I haven't finished that yet. So instead, I'm going to do a video regarding something that's been quite controversial this week. Everybody who knows me knows my favorite show is Game of Thrones. This past Sunday, there was an episode that had a controversial scene. So if you haven't seen Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 6, Unbent, Unbowed, and Unbroken, spoilers ahead. So pause or go away, come back after you see the episode. So the scene that everybody is, up in arms about is the scene at the end of the show after Sansa marries Ramsay Bolton. In my mind, he will always be Ramsay Snow. But technically, he's a Bolton. He will remain a bastard to me. But after she marries him, he takes her to her wedding room, and he rapes her in front of Theon, who he calls Reek now, who was her father's ward, who watched her grow up, since she was a little girl. And so it was very cruel, very horrible scene. The actual rape wasn't shown because I believe I remember reading about Game of Thrones, like the reason why they aged up the characters, because in truth, the characters in the book are much younger than they are on the screen. When Daenerys married Khal Drogo, she was like 13, but I think they aged her up to like 17 because British TV has rules. You cannot show children having sex, even if the actor portraying a child is of age. They still, if they're playing a child, you cannot show the child having sex. So Sansa here is probably 16 or 17. So since she's, technically not of age yet, they couldn't show the actual sex scene, which is a good thing because I don't like seeing rape scenes. I don't like it. It's not very entertaining. It's quite creepy and scary for me. But after saying that, even though I hate rape, rape scenes and seeing it on TV and it creeps me out, I wasn't as up in arms as everybody else was over this scene. They were through with Game of Thrones, that they had done a little bit too much. I guess when I watch Game of Thrones, even though it's a fantasy show, I realized that they're portraying this world. And this world is set in a time very similar to a real time in history, medieval times. As a matter of fact, the reason why this world is so in-depth and and complicated is because a lot of it is sort of patterned after world history. And during this time, women were things. They were objects. They were, basically you went from being your father's property to your husband's property. And that's how Sansa has been moved as this little piece, throughout the show, from being her father's property to being the property of Joffrey, and then Tyrion, and then Littlefinger had her, and now she's the property of the Boltons. Of course, when you have this sort of atmosphere, women are very disrespected and looked down upon. Scene last year when Arya and the Hound goes to this inn that some of Joffrey's men are, at, and there's the daughter of the innkeeper, and basically this girl is going to be raped. There's nothing the father can do. He can't fight off these men. They're soldiers. And they're like, we're going to take your daughter, and we're going to disrespect her, and we don't care what you think. You're not going to do anything. You can't do anything to us. And that's pretty much the world that they live in. This is, there's absolutely nothing they can do. And if you're not like, a lord or a knight, you can't protect your daughter. That's how I look at the world of Game of Thrones. Not that it's okay, but they're just showing you the world that they live in. I also see with Game of Thrones, that yes, they show that women are property. Yes, they show that women can be disrespected and looked down upon and treated like trash. But they also show the other side of the coin. Now, whether or not you think that's good enough, or that the other side of the coin is shiny enough to overcome the other things, is on you. But they show a lot of good portrayals of women. There's Brienne of Tarth. She is the closest thing to a female knight that you're ever going to get. She's badass. She can beat. So, I mean, she took on the Hound. Grown men couldn't beat the Hound, and she took on the Hound and nearly killed him. And there's also, Arya, who is a little girl, but she's killed a few people herself. She's currently as an apprentice or in training to become one of the most famous assassins, I guess, in that world. And, the faceless men are known like, if you want somebody dead, you call the faceless men. And she's in training with the faceless men right now. So she's a pretty badass little girl. And then you have the Sand Snakes, which I wish we could have seen more of them. I mean, I didn't want them to kill Myrcella, so I didn't want their plot to go through, but I just wish we could have seen more than a failed plot by them. They were really interesting, really cool characters, especially coming from Dorne. And last season, Prince Oberyn had told Cersei, like, your daughter would be safe with us because we don't kill little girls. Basically, in Dorne, they don't treat women the same way that the rest of Westeros treats women. The girls can ascend the throne. Women can ascend the throne. So, like, if there was if a prince has the oldest child is a girl, she can become the leader of that country. She won't be passed over for a brother. So that's very different, because in Westeros, unless you are the only choice left, you're passed over. That's why Sansa, who was, I guess, the second oldest, she was passed over until they thought all of her brothers were dead. Once they thought all of her brothers were dead, then she was the heir to Winterfell, and that's why she became an important piece, because, with Robb dead and her little brothers supposedly dead, it's on her. Dorne also doesn't look upon bastards, or illegitimate children, I should say, not bastards, but illegitimate children, the way the rest of Westeros does. They're not a taboo. They're not this big deal. And that's why, that's the Sand Snakes. That's why they have such, appeal and such pull. They're all illegitimate children. Even, the leader, Ilaria, she was, illegitimate, but she was the prince's lover, and she had many children by him. And I believe that all of the Sand Snakes, I haven't read these books. I've read the first 3 books, so I haven't read the 4th book, so I don't have exactly all of the background detail on the Sand Snakes, but I believe they were all Prince Oberyn's daughters, and maybe even by different women, not all by Ilaria, so I can't tell you for certain. If anybody knows the answer to the question, please tell me. Just don't give me too many book spoilers for book 4, because I like to read the books after the season occurs. Lady Olenna, or her name is also known as the Queen of Thorns. She is the current Queen Marjorie's grandmother. She basically killed King Joffrey, and Cersei doesn't know this. Cersei has no idea. This woman, she was a part of the plot with Littlefinger to kill King Joffrey because he was a psychopath, and she didn't want her granddaughter Marjorie marrying and being attached to this psychopath for the rest of her life. And she, by her own hand, poisoned him, and that's how he died. Cersei is on my list of women. Although she too is on my list of, kick-ass women. I can't stand her. I hate her. I hate her so much. And the day she dies, I will rejoice. She learned how to deal with her situation. Yes, that she is, she was the property of her father. She was the property of her husband, the king. But she learned how to use those things in her favor. And she learned how to get her own way. When she was tired of her husband, she used her own, her feminine wiles to get someone to keep plying her husband with drink so that he would die. Now, ironically, that person was her cousin, her first cousin who she was sleeping with, and he is now one of the main religious crusaders going against and pulling people into the streets and judging them for the things they do when he slept with his first cousin, the married queen, and helped her murder her husband. But yeah, let's go and judge a whole bunch of other people. Those are my list of, the other side of the coin. That yes, women are, they're not treated well in Westeros, but there are some women who have learned how to make their way and to make it the best way that they can. My thoughts on the Sansa rape, it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back for me. If that moment would have happened for me, it would have been season 1 when they killed Sansa's father, because he was the whole reason I started watching the show. I watched it because, it was Boromir. Boromir's in this show. It looks kind of interesting. It looks like there's going to be a fantasy, so let me go ahead and watch this show. And I got invested in his character. He was the moral center of the show. You don't kill off the moral center of the show. They killed off the moral center of the show and scattered his family to the winds. And it was that moment. It was like, okay, either I get upset now and be like, you just killed my whole reason for watching the show and stop watching, or I get on board with the fact that I have no idea what this show is going to do next. And so I was like, I feel a certain kind of way, but at the same time, I can't stop watching this. This is actually really great. What did you think about the scene between Sansa and Ramsay on their wedding day? Was this the straw that broke the camel's back for you? Did you think they've gone too far? Or did you feel like, you know what, I didn't like the scene, but I'm still going to keep watching the show anyway? Or do you just don't care because it's a fictional show and it's fiction? I have a couple of short films that I have. The footage is still in California, so I still have to get those back. So as soon as I get them back, I can upload them, and as soon as I finish re-editing the one I have now, I can upload that. But as always, please like and subscribe.